Zaire is a country that is much blessed, and at the same time has many hardships. It has natural beauty, an abundance of minerals, fertile soil, and one of the world's greatest rivers. But the corruption and inefficiency which plague the country, like the discordant band, strike a sour note.
Hello, my name is Lefoli Mumulasu. I used to be called Emmanuel, but in order to be more authentically Africans, we changed our names here in Zaire.
Mboka Zaire, Mboka Zaire, Mboka Zaire, ezali mboka kitoko. Mboka Zaire.
Zaire is Africa's third largest country. From a narrow 25-mile strip of coastline on the Atlantic, the country sprawls more than halfway across the middle of the continent. At just over 900,000 square miles, it is nearly twice the size of Alaska. Once known as the Belgian Congo, the country has been called Zaire since about 10 years after its independence from Belgium in 1960. The capital of Kinshasa is located in the narrow western part of the country, on the country's major river, because beyond anything else, Zaire is a river country. Its boundaries are largely those of the drainage basin of the mighty river once called the Congo, now called the Zaire. It is the world's fifth longest river, winding over 2,800 miles before it reaches the Atlantic. In volume of water carried, it's surpassed only by South America's mighty Amazon. Zaire is made up of 250 different tribes, speaking a variety of dialects. While French is the official language, there are 5 major national languages, incorporating more than 300 lesser tongues. But the river is a major unifying factor, something that everyone shares. Even the country's name is derived from a word meaning river. Zaire is also a forest country. The massive equatorial forest, Africa's largest, covers nearly 400,000 square miles and occupies 40% of Zaire's total land area. It is a damp, dark, dense jungle, so difficult to move through that it's still 95% unexplored. The forest is so tangled and forbidding, it's no wonder that legends persist of incredible creatures living in its heart. Dinosaurs are said to still dwell there, as are other, less identifiable, more mythical creatures. The truth is barely less fascinating. The world's rarest animal, the okapi, which is related to the giraffe, is so shy and elusive that it was thought by scientists to be as legendary as the unicorn. Then, in 1960, a pygmy hunter produced part of an okapi skin, and a new creature was added to the list of the Earth's species. Zaire has been inhabited since prehistoric times. The ancient Greek cartographer Ptolemy, who lived in the 1st century AD, drew this map, showing what are now Lake Mobutu and Victoria. Ptolemy identified the lakes as likely sources of the Nile. In 1484, Portuguese sailors discovered the river while charting the African coast. They sailed up the river as far as Matadi, where rapids prevented further progress. They left this cross to mark their journey. The land the Portuguese discovered was called the Kingdom of the Congo. They established friendly relations with the Congo king, who even sent his representative to Portugal as his ambassador to the Pope. But slavery followed these contacts with Europe. So many people were taken as slaves from the interior of the country that the kingdom collapsed. For 3 centuries, Zaire was all but forgotten, marked on maps as unknown lands. It was rediscovered by the famous explorer Henry Morton Stanley. In 1874, while searching for the source of the Nile, Stanley found the river he called the Congo. King Leopold II of Belgium financed Stanley's further explorations and became recognized by European leaders as owner of the country in 1885. This began 75 years of colonial rule by Belgium, which helped transform the Congo into a 20th century country. Independence in 1960 brought with it 5 years of turmoil and strife, marked by wars fought by mercenaries, and finally, peacekeeping by UN forces.
Je vous invite à passer le détachement en revue. Le commandant du détachement, le lieutenant-colonel Tawaba Moussele, va.
Relative stability returned in 1965 when an army coup brought this man to power. President Mobutu Zaire brought peace to the country. He remained in power into the 1990s, and only recently has he been forced to allow opposition political parties to exist. But staying in power and keeping the country intact has not been easy for Mobutu. The country is so vast and the roads and communications so poor that it is difficult to administer. To make matters worse, many of the more than 250 tribes have no great loyalty to the central government. Zaire is bordered by 9 different countries: Angola, the Republic of Congo, the Central African Republic, Sudan, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, Tanzania, and Zambia. His neighbors have widely differing ideologies, but Mobutu's policy is to remain on friendly terms with all of them. Mobutu's biggest problem seems to be the economy. Although Zaire has tremendous economic potential, the years of unrest, coupled with chronic mismanagement and high levels of corruption, have led to Zaire owing billions of dollars to world banks. To pay its bills, the country has become increasingly dependent on one export: copper. Copper is the backbone of the economy. The state-owned mining company employs 34,000 people, second only to the government. The ore taken from these mines accounts for more than 70% of Zaire's export earnings. The copper is extracted from huge open-pit mines and from a single underground mine in Shava. Zaire's copper reserves are large and of high quality, but when world copper prices drop, it has a depressing effect on the whole economy. A further difficulty is that of transporting the copper to world markets. The best rail routes have been closed in recent years by turmoil in neighboring countries. Alternative routes are longer and add more cost to the product. In addition to copper, Zaire is rich in other minerals. Cobalt, which is also extracted here in Kolwezi, already earns Zaire significant foreign exchange. In addition, zinc, diamonds, coal, manganese, bauxite, platinum, uranium, and gold are all found here. Uranium for the first U.S. atomic bomb was mined in Zaire. In some parts of the country, gold and diamonds can be found with ease. Private mining has now been legalized. The result has been a mini gold rush. These men work diggings just a few meters from their huts. The yield may be low, but Zaireans are so cash poor, any additional source of income is actively sought. Inflation has hit the people hard. A few years ago, the country's currency, the Zaire, was worth about as much as the U.S. dollar. Today, its value is about 1/4 of a penny. Prices have spiraled, but salaries remain unchanged. A state-employed doctor earns less than $35 a month, a teacher about $20. And this in a society where a 25-pound sack of rice costs $15. One result is that bribery has become an accepted practice. Soldiers manning roadblocks expect money from every car they stop. Customs duty can be evaded by bribing an official. It's a vicious circle, because without more money, the state cannot afford higher wages. And without higher wages, bribery will continue. Before Zaire can realize its potential, its infrastructure will have to be rebuilt. The country claims 84,000 miles of roads, but only 1,500 miles are paved, and nearly all are in bad condition. Many are impassable. The 900-mile drive from the capital of Kinshasa to Lubumbashi can take up to 2 months. Breakdowns are common. This man was stuck for 3 weeks. Finding gas can be a problem. Outlying towns are often without it for 3 months at a time. All these factors make food distribution difficult. Conditions in Kivu are ideal for agriculture, but farmers cannot get their produce to market. 80% of Zaire's population are subsistence farmers. They grow cassava, maize, rice, and peanuts. They have the potential to feed the nation, but until the roads improve, that potential will remain unrealized. The difficulty in transporting food means that in Kinshasa, where more than 10% of Zaire's 36 million people live, food is high-priced, and much is imported from South Africa and elsewhere. Kinshasa, formerly Leopoldville, is Zaire's capital. In 1960, it had a population of under 400,000. Today, between 3 and 4 million people live here. The number must necessarily be vague, because in spite of several attempts, the government has been unable to complete an accurate census. Zairean music has captivated the whole of Africa, so much so that it's become an export industry. Zairean bands perform in nearly every African country and are becoming increasingly popular in Europe. Zaire is home to Africa's 5 major groups: Pygmies, Bantus, Sudanese, Nilotics, and Hamatics. They all find their way to the Kinshasa melting pot, bringing with them contributions in lifestyles, music, and art. As much as Zairean men set the music fashion, Kinshasa women set the fashion in dress. They are often strikingly elegant in the wraparound national dress they currently favor. In hairstyles, too, what the Kinshasa girls do today, the rest of the country does tomorrow. The more intricate the style, the more fashionable it becomes. While the quality of the ivory carvings in Kinshasa's Sard market is quite high, the number of carvings on display is small. It's a sad commentary on the plight of Zaire's once large elephant population. In the last 10 years, poachers have killed over half of them. By the end of the century, they could be reduced to 0. Now, the government is allocating armed guards to elephant herds in an effort to ensure that sites like this may still be seen by future generations. Zaire is fortunate in still having an abundance of other wildlife and an extensive national park system. The increasingly rare black mountain gorillas are also protected by the government. But they have not been spared by the poachers either. Gorilla babies can be sold for high prices to zoos around the world. The gorillas are also threatened by the loss of their forest home as man cuts it down for fuel and room to plant crops. Now the government has created national parks to protect their habitat and assigned them armed guards. And to help pay for this, tourists are encouraged to visit the gorillas. The gorillas, in turn, seem to accept this human incursion as the price of their continued existence. A similar government program has made the country's pygmy population a tourist attraction too. Filming the pygmies is banned, while still photos are allowed. The pygmies were probably Zaire's first human inhabitants. Once found throughout Central Africa, they rarely attain a height of 4 feet. There is no way to measure the size of the pygmy population, but their numbers are believed to be declining. It is a fate they share with the forest in which they live, and it is probably connected to it. Zaire's equatorial forest is of vital importance, not only to Zaire, but to the world as a whole. It is so big that it affects weather patterns on a global scale, according to climatology researcher Mike Harrison.
Well, like so many of the other tropical forests around the world, it's being cut, and it's being cut at a fairly swift rate. And we think that this cutting is going to have some major climatic consequences in the future, not only locally to the forest, but also worldwide.
The forest is fast disappearing as subsistence farmers chop it down to plant corn and other crops. Both the environment and the economy are problems the government has made little progress in dealing with. In the 70s, Mobutu nationalized all private industry, which had mostly been owned and managed by Belgians. When the state proved incompetent to run them, he offered to return the ruined businesses to their former owners. But by that time, it was too late. Most of the highly skilled Belgians had already left the country. The result, a tremendous setback for the economy. Mobutu also acted against the church with similar negative results. Missionaries have long been active in the country, particularly in establishing schools and hospitals, services the state has been conspicuously unable to supply. Because its role in education and health was so important, the Catholic Church wields a great deal of political power. In a bid to weaken the church, Mobutu nationalized the schools. The result was the departure of thousands of trained teachers and disruption of the system. Today, education has become harder to obtain for many Zairean children. Though primary education is officially compulsory, free education has been abolished. And while 75 to 80% of Zairean children reportedly attend school, it is fewer today than in the past. About 40% of the adult population remains illiterate. Not only did Mobutu act against the church through education, he also decreed that all those Zaireans with Christian names should drop them in favor of African ones. His rationale was that Christian names were part of a colonial heritage which Zaire was trying to shake off. In response to this decree, the people have Africanized their names. Less successful was Mobutu's decision to abolish Christmas. The idea was to emphasize that Zaire was a secular state rather than a Christian one. But it caused such an international outcry that he had to relent. So the church remains very powerful, playing a particularly vital role in providing health and educational services. But the church alone cannot solve Zaire's many problems. There are no easy answers for Zaire. After more than a quarter century as an independent nation, it is still struggling to achieve economic stability and internal development. The problems are vast. The solutions are as yet unknown. Yet not all is gloom. People are eating. Some are prospering. There's more peace in the land now than at any time since colonial rule. And there's a growing sense of unity. The people themselves say things are getting better. These civil wars and crippling anarchy. Today, there is peace and freedom. There is no doubt that things have improved for the people of Zaire. But change comes slowly in the heart of Africa. And many challenges still lie ahead.
In the heart of the African jungle, into the very center of a dense forest where few white men have ever dared to travel, we are bent upon a great adventure. The entire region swarms with pop adders, the most treacherous and the deadliest of African reptiles. The intense heat and the moisture combine to form a mist or haze. There is a strange, indescribable fascination to this most primitive scene, and especially to the giant heather. In England, it grows to a height of 4 feet. Here, it often rises to the height of 40 feet. After many days and nights of uncertain and dangerous travel, we come upon those strange and ever-restless little nomads, Africa's Pygmies. They have had a good day of hunting, and we find them feasting on raw elephant meat. The carving, always an important ceremony, is done by the chief, who is always especially conscious of this great honor. they seem unusually happy and carefree because they're being well fed, and they know that there is plenty of food ahead for several days to come. We soon learn that the Pygmies are planning to build a bridge to span a river infested with crocodiles. Through countless generations, these little people have lost thousands to the terrible monsters. As children, they learn to fear the rivers. To build their bridge, the Pygmies must accumulate tons of material. Vines must be knotted together to make them long enough to span the river. Their task is before them, and they're about to begin. We will soon see a most amazing example of primitive engineering. The tallest tree overhanging the stream is selected. It's 150 feet high, and to its top they laboriously climb. Later, they'll construct a crude ladder of vines. This withered little old man believes his job is to criticize. In order to reach the top, masses of tangled growth must be cut and cleared away. On a topmost branch that reaches far out to the middle of the river, they fasten a rope of vines, which will hang almost to the water, in which are hidden the ever-alert and deadly crocodiles. I tell you it won't work. Why don't you listen to me? Now, at the lower end of the vine, two loops are made to form a sort of a saddle, into which a man can fasten his legs. The pygmy who is to be the first to cross the river and carry the vine to its opposite side must have great courage, as his fellow tribesmen are preparing to literally hurl him into the trees on the far side. As we watch these little men work, we begin to realize both the size and the peril of their undertaking. We realize that despite their small size, their determination is great. Below, the vicious beasts keep watch. Should the vine break, should something go wrong, these creatures, fast as a greyhound, would soon satisfy their carnivorous craving. Now the vine is drawn high. Then, quickly, the holding vine is cut, and there he goes. But he is missed. The vine is too short. The vine must be moved farther out and lengthened. I told you it wouldn't work. Now listen to me. Again he is pulled up high so that his swing will be greater. Truly a daring effort. And there he goes again. Again failure. The vine is still too short. It won't work, I tell you. On the third attempt, he will carry a hooked stick to increase his reach and afford a better chance to catch hold of a vine or branch on the other side. This time, he is really going up. Bio, bio, they all shout. In pygmy language, this means higher, higher. Now the vine is almost horizontal, and watch. And success comes to these little men of the jungle. See? You could have done it the first time. The drag of the heavy line on this pygmy's frail little body is terrific, but he hangs on, trying to work himself free of the saddle without letting go of the vine. Exhausting work, and especially so with everyone below shouting orders and advice. At last he is out, and the vine is securely fastened. The first man and the first vine are safely across the river. Even the old critic is very pleased. The crocodiles are disappointed. Now begins the equally perilous task of carrying more vines across the river. The little men continue to climb to the top of the huge tree, each carrying their share of the vines. To the top they all go, then down to the slanting vine high over the river of doom. The first vine has been stretched into position, and the bridge will soon extend from one giant tree to another on the opposite bank of the river. Every little man has his work to do, and everyone works industriously as more vines constantly arrive and are immediately prepared. About 60 feet above ground on both trees, huge ladders have been built to lead to the forks in the branches, to which the bridge is now anchored. The bridge is being built. It is being built very high because with the constant alternation of hot sunshine and terrific rainstorms, it may sag as much as 20 feet, and there is no way for the Pygmies to raise it once the sag has set in. This primitive bridge, now weighing many tons, is as great an engineering feat to the Pygmies as is the building of any of our great modern spans to us. Materials keep pouring in. The efficiency of these little people is truly amazing. Some take turns hunting, for everyone must be fed and fed well while the big job goes on. At the end of 6 days, the bridge is nearing completion. Even though there is still some decking to be installed, they're using the bridge, for the men on both sides must be fed. On the 8th day, the two teams of workers will meet in the middle of the great span, the span that now extends for 173 feet from tree to tree. It's 50 feet above the water. This friendly little tribe could have built the bridge in less time, but on dark and rainy days they would stop, as we had explained as best we could, that unless the sun shone, photography was out of the question. The bridge is finished. They play with it like children with a new toy. The Pygmies have conquered another river and have protected themselves once more against the deadly perils of the treacherous crocodiles that are ever on the alert to seek out their human prey.